It's not looking good in stores. The UConn Huskies just took a brutal L to the number 2 ranked UCLA Bruins, their offense in disarray and their defense not looking much better. A team that desperately needed a win to prove themselves as championship contenders couldn't find one today, as the Huskies were simply outclassed and outworked in every facet. But I think most notably, they were completely outcoached. Despite being a program that has had some of the better recruiting classes of the last few years, and with a roster filled with talent from top to bottom, it seems that lately Geno Auriemma has been unable to maximize it. That was magnified tenfold today, as UConn's offense once again stalled in big moments. So, what went wrong for the UConn Huskies against UCLA? And what does this suggest about the team and Geno Auriemma going forward? I'll be breaking down the film and analysing it all in today's video. Before we start, if you're new here and enjoyed the video, be sure to subscribe for more women's basketball content like this. But with that being said, let's look at UConn vs UCLA. The Huskies once again started this game really flat, with terrible offensive execution out of the gates. This is becoming a trend as of late, as UConn have scored an average of just 12.3 points in the first quarter of their last 3 games, which is concerning, as it means the Huskies are chasing the game and playing catch-up, not being in control of the match. When they get in control early, UConn can steamroll their opponents. We saw that a lot toward the back end of last season, so having quick starts is going to be key going forward. While the Huskies made up for the slow start with brilliant defense against Maryland, that didn't happen tonight, as their flat-footed, low-energy defense meant Kiki Rice and the Bruins could just tear them apart in the first quarter. Just look at this clip here. There's too much ball watching going on, allowing UCLA to find several open options and in turn get a look like this without even a sniff of a contest. That's unacceptable, and if UConn want to compete for a national championship, they simply have to be better. UCLA outscored the Huskies 28-12 in that first quarter, but in my opinion, Geno Auriemma needs to be held accountable for this mainly, rather than the players. When you come up against a team that has size and length like UCLA, you need more height out there. So the starting 5 of KK Arnold, Nika Mule, Paige Beckers, Aubrey Griffin, and Aaliyah Edwards was a surprise to many, including myself. I mean, the fact that Paige was technically the small forward to start this game says a lot, and unsurprisingly, UConn's offense sputtered out of the gates. To give credit where it's due, UCLA's length did a great job at making UConn hesitate on passes in their set pieces. Like here, where Nika Mule can't even begin the set because of Kiki's presence, resulting in an error and turnover. With that said though, it just feels like a lot of UConn's actions are predictable and readable. I mean sure, you could say that shots just aren't falling for some of these Huskies. The fact they shot just 33% from the field today is genuinely shocking, but there's clearly more to it than that, since UConn's offense has looked stale and uninspired for a little while now. It's become a trend this season for Paige to be totally relied upon to carry UConn to victories all the time, and considering the depth of talent this team is supposed to have, that just shouldn't be the case. Losing AZ for the season is obviously rough. Her pure scoring ability and threat as a shooter will be sorely missed, but again, an offensive performance like today is completely inexcusable regardless, and the coaching tactics used should take some blame for that in my opinion. I think this next example though will ultimately demonstrate why Auriemma is at fault largely for today's loss, and why he needs to change some things. Let's give credit where it's due. Geno did adjust decently in the second quarter and had Paige as the primary ball handler instead of utilizing her as an off-ball threat. Initially, UConn had Nika as the playmaker, but with the physical close-up defense of Rice and UConn also just taking far too long to get into their actions, it resulted in a number of turnovers. Auriemma also made a change there too, getting Paige immediately into high pick and rolls as she first approached the three-point line, instead of waiting multiple seconds to get into a set play. This allowed her to attack the Bruins defense before they had set up properly, and resulted in a ton of great looks for her that she knocked down. It was why she was so dominant in that first half, going into the main break with 18 points. So it just baffles me that despite these clear advantages from the adjustments made that got UConn back in this game, Auriemma decided to run the same starting 5 from the first quarter to begin the third. What a shock, it backfired heavily again as the Huskies were outscored 22-8, having nothing to slow down the stars of Charisma Osborne and Kiki Rice. Even during that great second term though, while the Huskies offense did appear to start clicking, including an 11-0 run, if you really look at it, there were still concerns that need to be addressed if this team wants to compete with the likes of UCLA and be a championship contender. Their run was basically pure carry work by Paige Beckers and some good hustle from Aubrey Griffin. And while it's obviously an amazing thing to have Paige's takeover ability on your roster, she's one of the best players in the country undoubtedly right now, UConn's offense still felt quite forced and one-dimensional for stretches of that period. Like this play here during that 11-0 run, where Aubrey Griffin rolls in a 3. There's literally zero off-ball movement as well as clear confusion on where players need to be. Edwards and DeBerry are clashing into each other in the paint, so even if one of them wanted a post entry there, it was likely to be stolen or deflected on the pass, or they'd get in trouble from an immediate double team. It's just not good spacing. As I mentioned, the high pick and rolls were working during this run, but once the offense slowed down into a proper half-court set, problems that we've seen before arose again. In this play though, Paige was crafty enough to whip a beautiful cross-court pass to Aubrey for this bucket, but again, there are concerns that I don't think we can overlook. Now, is it all Geno's fault? Definitely not, because there are some players on this team that are clearly struggling for confidence right now. Aaliyah Edwards has just not looked herself this season, Nika Mule isn't having the same impact as years past as a playmaker, and sometimes all it comes down to is the player's self-belief, especially when it comes to shooting the ball. Additionally, losing AZ Fudd for the full season with an ACL injury probably has impacted these players mentally too. It's a tight-knit group, so if that's a reason why they came out a bit flat to start this game, I totally understand. But at the end of the day, it's Geno Auriemma's job and responsibility to get these players into positions where they can best succeed on the floor. And to put it bluntly, I don't think he's doing that right now. Paige Beckers having to carry the offensive load can only take you so far. That offense isn't going to dominate a defense of the likes of a UCLA or South Carolina, like we saw today. Maybe a bit of a system overhaul is required, I don't know. But Geno Auriemma has to figure it out soon. Yes, occasionally there have been positive signs for the Huskies, like when they turn their defense into offense or get Paige into pick and rolls quickly. But unfortunately, we're not seeing that for a full 40 minutes at the moment. For today especially, Geno Auriemma was the one who jeopardized this game with poor management of rotations and lineups, and it's a problem UConn will need to address going forward, as it's not the first time we've seen questionable decisions from Geno this season. There's heaps of time to figure it out, so I don't want to be all doom and gloom, but if you're a UConn fan, I think you have every right to be a bit concerned right now. But that will conclude the video. Please don't see this video as like a witch hunt on Auriemma or anything like that. I love the guy and I think he's done amazing things for the Huskies and is undoubtedly still one of the best coaches in all of college basketball. I've just noticed he's in some poor form lately. If you made it this far though, you must have enjoyed this analysis, so be sure to like the video and subscribe for more women's basketball content like this. But with that being said, I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.